Here we are in sunny Florida. We are in Miami. We are here to do an interview with a special guest, a friend of mine that I used to play with in a band called Sky. But he's gone on to do a whole bunch of other things. He is a multi-talented musician, keyboard player, and 3D animator.
He's worked with the likes of Star Academie, Rihanna, Cirque du Soleil, and Enrique Iglesias, just to name a few.
You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome to Basement TV. Here we are in Miami with Richard Maheux. Richard.
Wow,
Richard.
ça fait longtemps.
It's been, I don't even want to say how many years.
I was trying to calculate it, but I'm troubled because you didn't change, so maybe it's not that long ago.
You're not aging, it's hard.
You, my friend, have not changed at all either, except for your career. Your career path has changed immensely. When I first met you, you have a brother that also plays, does he play drums?
He played drums, yes.
That's right. And I remember that you were doing a lot of work with him.
Back then I was, of course, playing with my brother, which is a good drummer. He did Cirque du Soleil for 10 years as well. And, but then, anyway, you know, I went to school, blah, 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 and University in Montreal. And then I got this gig at some point. I mean, it's funny, like, I finally get where I wanted to be in school, University of Montreal, and then the next semester I got a gig to go play in Asia. So I disappeared in Asia for 4 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
that's true.
And that's where I met Michael Letricitz, because that circuit of Asia band, he did that as well.
That's
So
right.
anyway, so the Michael, everybody knows Michael somehow.
Yeah, in Montreal especially.
Yeah.
Everyone's worked with him.
It's the link.
So anyway, when I came back from Asia, I got in contact with him, and I ended up being his roommate in Montreal, and from there everything started. Like, because
That's right.
Michael knows everybody.
I remember because I used to be producing, and we were producing partners, and I used to go to the house, and you had moved in. And
Yeah.
that's where I first met you, and Michael was like, this is Richard, keyboard player, and you know, he does a lot of editing and a lot of programming and stuff like that. And then you went on to work on what is Montreal's sort of like America's Got Talent, which is called Star Academie. And you were offered a job to start doing programming. So it was like drum programming and keyboard stuff. And that was through Antoine Sicat, I believe, that hired you.
Yeah, so yeah, all the arrangement, and Antoine would just tell me what he wanted on the album, and I would make the arrangement, everything, record a session, the guitar player or the violin player, whatever, and then Antoine would put a stamp, yes or no, and that was it.
Right.
But that was pretty intense because, you know, that was has to be done quick, and
Done quick, and it happened to be the most watched TV show ever in Quebec.
Oh, I was obsessed.
yeah.
I'm curious because you were saying that you had finally gotten to the place that you wanted to in school. Was that in music or?
Yeah, well, I was like, it was a jazz piano, but you know, like at first I wanted to go to St. Lawrence, what everybody wanted to go there, and then I didn't get that, so I ended up in Drummondville, so which I meet a lot of nice people. But after that, I wanted to go to UM and like the piano jazz interpretation, which So I didn't get that, but then I end up there anyway, about general for a year. And then finally I get the place in jazz interpretation with Luc Beaugrand. But then, by then I was like, okay, I need to do something.
Right. So now after your education, you're like, okay, I need to either start playing with some people and start making connections. And I think the biggest connection, like we said, was moving in with Michael and then working on the Star Academy record, although you weren't named during award ceremonies, because that still won like one of the biggest records.
Yeah, album of the year, the Evangeline was a song of the year.
Right.
And then we work on Marie-Mé and Marie-Hélène. It was Emily. It was all the
All of the
branches
winners.
also.
Well, there's
Those
a
were-
lot of stars,
Well,
especially in that
that was
season.
the first year. That's where Marie-Mé got
Yeah.
her start.
Yeah, so Star Me, I think it's 2004 and 2005.
Right.
So those 2 years. So yeah, I was pretty busy with that.
Yeah, that was a really intense, and I remember it was extremely stressful for you to be
Yes.
working because you were thrown in with the Sharks. It was like, okay, you're out of school now, you want to work. Michael put you to work, and he was like, you're going to meet people and blah blah blah. And then Antoine put you to work because you were doing like a big bulk of that work on that record. Then after that, there was more. I think we got more into live playing.
And well, I think the main thing, what happened after that, I had a gig in those band that plays in casino. So we end up in Atlantic City, and then I met my girlfriend at the time, which turned out to live in New York. So at some point, I just kind of moved in New York,
Right.
but it was not a thing that I never thought about. It's just like, oh yeah, okay.
Following love a little bit.
Yeah, and then why not? And it turns out that she was well connected because she was working in a very famous venue over there. So there was only like really great musicians. So
Right.
I met great musician right off the bat, and from there, I mean, it was like a bunch of back and forth with Canada, New York, for a while. And then I got a couple of, a little tour over there. I have to remember, but one was like with kids, like a kids bop. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
Kids bop?
Kids bop. It's a famous thing for kids in the U.S.
Okay.
So anyway, there was a tour, so I did that. But
Did you have to wear a costume?
no. It was just.
I didn't know if there was maybe like a suit or something like.
But anyway, it's always like you met one person, you met the other person, and
Right.
then in that band it was this great guy that I mean all of them, but these guys connect me to more the Broadway scene in New York. So I did a couple of Broadway shows, which were the most famous one would be Rock of Ages.
Very cool. So cool.
So I did that. I didn't have the official chair, but I was like subbing like twice a month maybe.
Right.
But I was subbing the keyboard player, which
It's a huge part.
he's the musical director. So
Right.
so you have to do all these things like all the cues and.
Right.
So that's very stressful because in Broadway there's no rehearsal.
Right.
There's no rehearsal. You just learn your stuff. You get the book, and I was lucky enough to go film him in advance. But that's it. Like, okay, when you start playing, is everything with the crowd, and you have to do the cue with everybody, and that's because they don't deal with that. There's no rehearsing there.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I don't know, 15 years ago.
15 years ago, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And my age is a secret,
Yeah. Well, you're ageless. You look ageless.
It goes with the territory of entertainment. You can't say how old
That's
you actually
a
are.
pretty big gig. I had no idea that that's how it ran. I'd be so stressed.
Yeah, no, that's very stressful. I mean, especially for the cue stuff, because the musical director part of it, I mean, that's one thing. But anyway, so I did a couple of these things, and then Rock of Ages I did often, like twice a month, and I sub on tours because there was many productions. So I did a couple of tour of Rock of Ages, but like US tour thing.
Right.
And then now I'm still doing it, even the show it's not running, and I'm still doing it because it's not the show, but it's they call it the Rock of Ages band, Broadway band. Anyway, it's just the band.
Okay.
We're playing the song,
Right.
but it's the same guy we were
Right.
that
So
I
it's
was
not
doing
the actual theater piece, but it's the music behind it.
Yeah, so it's fun because they say it's the same guy playing, and then once again we have great players like Joel Oxtra. He played with White Snakes, and then
Right.
you got Al play with Joy and Jet, and they all like actually play for the real people.
Right.
So that's great too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference.
It's not the official Broadway, but it's the people from the show.
I think it's pretty awesome to have the difference between the corporate bands. You know, it's like in Montreal to the corporate bands like here.
Where the musicians from Joan Jett, Whitesnake, no big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Well, I mean,
Like,
yeah. I think that's awesome. That's awesome.